Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, August 18th, 2020 school committee meeting. We're in Tyngsborough High School. As always, these meetings are audio and video recorded. I call this meeting to order. The style of introduction is to my left.
Good evening, Mike Moran.
Good evening, Mark Branco, Assistant Superintendent.
Hi, Mike Flanagan, Superintendent.
Ryan McMahon.
Becky Stanton.
Anthony Tenerella.
Jeff Bowe.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will seek a motion to approve the August 4th, 2020 school committee minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I will second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 6-0. Correspondence.
Mr. Chair, 3 items of correspondence in your drive tonight. The first one is an op-ed letter from Bob Baldwin, who's the president of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, and Tom Scott, the executive director of MASS. That is a public release that will get to a lot of the media outlets within the next few days. The second piece of correspondence is an email response from our school attorney, Kelly Gonzalez, in response to transportation and waivers and things like that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get into the actual reopening update, but we do have that response in there for your perusal. And the third piece of correspondence I just received probably a half hour ago. I didn't have an opportunity to forward read it, but it's the latest DESE MIAA recommendation regarding fall sports. I don't know if it is official yet, but that's the guidelines that are being offered right now, and I don't think it's fully been vetted or voted on yet, so I think that's still kind of a working draft at this time. That's all we have for correspondence.
Thank you. Visitors, comments, or questions? Show success.
I just received a text. Natalie's unable to make it tonight, so we'll have to hold off on all our success till the next meeting.
Subcommittee update.
Not at this time, Mr. Chair. If possible, I'd like to get the superintendent evaluation subcommittee together for our next meeting at 6:30 to talk about goals for the 2021 school year.
So on September 8th.
Correct.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Personnel. Notification of resignation. Mary Murphy, a TES para, 18 plus years of service. Congratulations, Mary. Good luck in the next chapter. Unfinished business.
Mr. Chair, the first item under unfinished business is the tours update and discussion. I know that there was a lot of conversation about this, and as you know, at the last meeting, Principal Ogden from the high school presented information as to credits that could be passed down to younger siblings within the district, but the real question was, how do we reach out to our seniors and find out what their hopes are with EF tours? In reaching out to the 19 seniors, Mr. Ogden has confirmed that 16 of them have requested that they want a refund right now and do not want to pursue the trip. I think the uncertainty of it is concerning. So at this point, I think the trip is a done deal. You need at least 6 to travel with EF tours. So right now we're at 3 seniors, and I know that a lot of the kids, the younger underclassmen, are going to use that credit hopefully for a trip next year. I did have a conversation with Mr. Ogden about process, and certainly we're going to have a conversation, or he'll come to the school committee prior to allowing students to start paying deposits and financing trips earlier. So we'll get in front of that in a much more expedient manner. But at this time, there was no really a school committee vote on it. I'm just kind of keeping the school committee informed. We're going to continue with the fact that the trip is canceled, given the fact that all these senior parents want their money back, or 16 out of 19 want their money back, and we'll just kind of go from there. We are going to work to apply credits and refunds from EF tours to the best of our ability, and Principal Ogden will spell all that out for all the parents, in case they have any questions.
Thank you.
I don't have to answer any questions if anyone has any questions at this time.
I think it would be good if, I think it would be good if Mr. Ogden and Mr. Messina could maybe work with a local bank. And I know the long-term financing and savings is very helpful to a lot of these families. But the money gets tied up with EF tours and then they risk losing it. So if we can work with a local bank, maybe we could set something up where the money's not at risk.
No, it's a great idea.
I think that'd be something worth pursuing.
Because I think the kids definitely take advantage of it. Some of these kids have been squirreling away money for years, so they know that the trips are costed. They get to be over $3,000, so financing is certainly helpful for some of our kids. So
Sorry.
My question was, I thought that when we had talked at an earlier time was that we didn't have to make a decision until November 21st or November 19th.
We don't, but given the fact that 16,
Well, let me talk about that, because the way I had done the survey, because my daughter is signed up for it, the way I read the survey was if we, and maybe I read it wrong, but I wonder if everybody else read it this way, is the reason we're saying we're canceling was because they were going to postpone it to 2022. My daughter's a senior, she can't go in 2022. So given that you're postponing it, I'm going to cancel.
right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I didn't think it was an option to go in April. I didn't think there was an option. I thought we already had decided to postpone it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. I don't
know, and that's the way I read it, so that's the way I answered it. And I didn't even think it was an option to go in April because it was already postponed. So I'm not going to say I'm going to go in April of 2022 because my daughter can't go in April of 2022.
Sure.
I don't mean to bring it personal, but I'm just wondering if other seniors had thought that too. So I was going to advocate tonight to hold off to make the decision till November, till we had to make the decision, because my understanding is we don't lose any money till November. Or the money doesn't change. Is that
So
true?
I'm gonna recommend that Mr. Ogden have a parent night.
I think he
to get all the
should.
parents
I
involved and
really
have a
think he
conversation
should,
about
because I
this.
think the seniors were kind of
Yep.
blindsided, and they really need to all come together and make a decision together. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, no, I think it's important that they have input, you know, and ultimately, the school's gonna have to make a decision based on what we feel is best. It's not gonna be a unanimous
Yeah.
vote per se, you know, but
Right.
certainly stakeholders need to be heard. And again, it's gonna come down to, we need to supply chaperones for this
Right.
trip as well. And they need to be school personnel if it's in fact a school trip. We generally don't, aside from Bourne, have a lot of parent chaperones overnight trips.
Right.
So I will push that back to Mr. Ogden. He'll have a parent night and resolve it with all the parents who choose to come.
Sounds good.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
So Dr. Branco is going to bring up a slide deck for us right now. So I just want to take a few minutes and kind of walk the committee through what's been going on since our last meeting when we took the hybrid vote, or the committee took the hybrid vote. A lot of work has gone on in the schools, and I think it's a lot of the detail, minutia, important work in terms of building schedules and looking at where we're going to be and where we're going to land for next year. So we'll go to the first slide, Mark. As always, it's been our primary goal to get students and staff back to an in-person school experience as soon as possible in a safe learning environment. But we need to do that, and we need to follow it. Guidelines that are grounded in both science and data. And what we've been talking about is context. Context matters on the local level as well. So that's been our primary focus, and we all want to bring our kids back to the best of our ability. Next slide, please. So just to put into context some local school committee votes, as you can see, this is playing out everywhere in the news, and media, print. These are some local decisions that have been made regarding learning models for next year. And I'll just give you a second to review that.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Do we know what their models are? Are they similar to ours, where Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday? Are they?
They're all over the place.
Okay.
So I will tell you that some of the models are 3.5 to 4 hours in the morning, and students go home, have lunch, and log on in the afternoon. Some of them are 2 days a week, full day, and the other 2 days are asynchronous learning, which is what we did from March till the end of the school year. Some of the models are 1 week on, 1 week off. So given and you're going to see another slide later that speaks specifically about how that impacts our staffing pattern. But the models are all over the place.
They're everywhere.
So everyone in the Greater Merrimack Valley, or most in the Greater Merrimack Valley, have landed on hybrid models. Now, that being said, I will also say that each one of these decisions is also at a different place than we are, given that they still need to negotiate with their local teachers union in some of these communities. I don't know exactly who's landed on MOA, but I don't believe most of them have a memorandum agreement with their local Teachers Association, which we are going to vote on tonight. So we are in a good spot in that manner. Next slide, please. So as we talk about the hybrid model, we really start to think about it. The big mitigation strategies that are suggested by the CDC include 6 feet social distancing, scheduling students in cohorts, modifying the lunch, transportation, all of these bullet points. Because we have landed on a hybrid model, we can do and incorporate all of these mitigation strategies. If we were fully in person, we would not be able to have 6 feet of social distancing. We wouldn't be able to serve lunch 3 feet away from each other, 6 feet away from each other with a mask on. We already know transportation's an issue. We wouldn't have the opportunity to do a deep clean on Wednesday and or Saturday. So the hybrid model does allow us to follow all CDC recommended mitigation strategies. Next slide, please. I don't know if you can see that really well, but these are the trigger metrics that came out last week by the governor. And basically, this looks at the number of cases per 100,000 residents over a 14-day period. And essentially, it codes each community as red, yellow, green, or white as to how they could proceed or how they should proceed with a remote learning option, with a learning model, a reopening learning model. That being said, Mark, next slide. When this came out, these trigger metrics came out, this is the map maybe you've seen before on the news. This was probably a more familiar map to some people. When these came out 1 week ago, Tyngsborough was coded as unshaded or white, which would have been the very top of the category. This came out on Tuesday. The very next day, Tyngsborough was coded as green. So you can see how this is going to be a fluid map. One party in one town could potentially move them to yellow. So I think we need to be responsive to that and understand that context matters and local data matters. So Tyngsborough right now is a community that's coded as green. And again, this map will be updated tomorrow around 4 o'clock, I believe. Next slide, please. So as we talk about context, it's important to know that Tyngsborough itself right now is green, but Tyngsborough schools aren't necessarily green. Tyngsborough schools are made up of 245 staff members. And just so you can understand some of the metrics, I put some of the age patterns in here so you can see that where we are as a staff. 1/3 of our staff is over the age of 50. 22% of our staff is over 55, and 10% of our staff is over the age of 60. The 245 staff members in Tyngsborough reside in 43 different communities. So I went through the communities and looked at what those communities were categorized as. And you can see from down below, 13% of our staff live in communities that are unshaded or categorized as white. 2/3 of our staff, the bulk in Tyngsborough, are coded as green. 2% of our staff are coded in the yellow category per the Massachusetts metric. And here's where the problem comes in, and this is why context matters. We have 41 staff members that live in New Hampshire. New Hampshire doesn't code in the same manner or Massachusetts does. So I have no way to compare our staff members who live in Manchester or Nashua against Massachusetts metrics. So we have 41 staff members, or 17% of our staff, that are unknown, and we can't really put them nicely into a category. It's not a deal breaker, it's not something that's going to make a decision, but it's another piece of information. It's another contextual factor that we need to consider as we think about what's best for our students. Next slide. In terms of returning in a hybrid model, I know this was one of the things that the bargaining team dealt with a lot in terms of who's going to come back, what is the staff really feeling to date. As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, based on returning in a hybrid model, we had 1 staff member retire. We have 4 confirmed leaves, and we have 15 additional staff members still inquiring. Now, I talked about the hybrid models in different communities. For a big part of that is because of these hybrid models that aren't consistent across local communities. Staff members are worried about childcare and how they're going to pivot if they have to, or how they're going to deal with childcare right now, or if Tyngsborough goes remote, or if their hometown goes remote. How do they watch their kids? How do they care for their kids? That's a big factor of those 15 additional staff inquiries. We've been fortunate that Alpha Best, our before and after school provider, they're stepping up, and Alpha Best is going to run a full-day daycare somewhere in the community for Tyngsborough staff, so we can get our teachers back to work. There's obviously a cost that goes with that, but it's an option for our teachers. And given the fact that our teachers didn't know until a week and a half ago that we were going to hybrid, it's tough to scramble and find daycare for your kids, particularly if you have multiple kids. So Alpha Best has been huge partnering with us. And I'd also like to recognize the town and potentially the Board of Selectmen for supporting us as well, because they want to make this happen as well. Eric Salerno's been phenomenal helping us, as has Town Administrator Hanson, and certainly the Board of Selectmen, because they understand the need in the community. It truly is one community pulling together here, so very thankful for their efforts. So we talked about childcare, we talked about the concern of our staff members balancing hybrid models, and the big concern is if we go remote, what happens then? And the staff just have this, uneasiness about where the metrics are going, where the virus is going, the trajectory of it, and how it could play out. So we still have 15 members that are trying to work out their life situation. Next slide.
If I may?
Sure,
Dr.
go back.
Flanagan.
Please.
Could we open on September 14th without those 50, actually you're looking at 20 members?
So we're in the process now of replacing the 4 confirmed leaves, and if the 15 go, it depends when they toss. We need to know sooner than later.
Okay.
We need to know that as soon as possible. So,
And are those all different schools, different subjects, different?
yeah, I will say the bulk of it's the elementary school.
Okay.
Yeah, bulk of it's the elementary school. So I think I'm very hopeful that Alpha Best is going to be a very good solution for a lot of this problem.
Is that the main reason, because of the childcare?
Yes.
Those 15 people?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
I didn't know if it was because they wanted to go remote and didn't want to be in person or anything.
No,
like
it's all
that.
it's all childcare. They all want to come back, so that's a good thing.
Is the Alpha Best going to be in one of our buildings or one of the town buildings?
They're looking at town building right now. Yep. I think they're actually hoping for Old Town Hall, so they're working with the Board of Selectmen on that. So that's where we are. All right. Yep, thanks. So as you know, once the committee made the decision on Tuesday, the 4th, to go with a hybrid model, we put out the model selection form the very next day. And it had 2 questions. For your child, for the upcoming school year, will you choose a remote learning environment or a hybrid learning environment? And if you choose the hybrid learning environment, will you also expect transportation from the Tyngsborough Public Schools? And these are the metrics, these are the numbers that came out. 84% of our parents selected hybrid. 14.9% of our parents selected remote. And 1% of our parents said their child will not come back to the Tyngsborough Public Schools. As we drilled down into that 84%, you can see it was 56%, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Just over 50% will require transportation, and just under 50% will not require transportation. So we felt good about the busing situation in a hybrid model, given this response. So we've spent the past few days, next slide, Mark, really diving into the numbers. And these are what the numbers show us right now. Again, fluid, because we're still waiting to hear back from a few parents. Any parent we did not, or any family we did not hear back from, we assumed hybrid, because that put a seat on the bus and it put a seat in the classroom. And we know that 85% of the parents are trending that way anyways. So anyone we didn't hear from was assigned hybrid. So that assumes this, but there could be some fluctuation, as I said. So I'll just give you a minute to process these numbers. The bulk of our remote learning students will be at the elementary school, 137, 38 remote learning at the middle school. I apologize, I have a typo there. It looks like I think it's about 30 remote learning at the high school as well. Yep. I missed that data point.
It is 30.
In this bus, these bus numbers, do these include the Innovation and Notre Dame kids that we're required to transport?
Nope, so we know we have about 390 seats per run, given CDC guidelines. So we can see our morning run, there's plenty of room. There's plenty of room for these students for Innovation in Notre Dame. Even if we got up around 250, 270, we'd be okay. They don't have that many. So
if there's, sorry to
No.
keep on. If there's a change of heart from some of these parents and it ends up weighing heavier toward like a Lakeview or a Winslow team. I mean, you can see that in the middle school, the Winslow is a little heavier, not a ton, but a little bit heavier. And in the elementary school, the Lakeview is a little heavier. If you saw a big shift, would you look to change the lettering?
So, right, so that's a good point. So at some point, we're gonna cut it off and say that's the lettering, okay? And then as we start to get new registrations, which will typically happen over the next 2 weeks, regardless of what your last name is, those students will be assigned to the undersubscribed team to balance the teams off. So if we have 45 Flanagans walk in, they might be put on the Winslow team, not the Lakeview team. And I wouldn't wish 45 Flanagans on anyone. So we're gonna have a point where we'll cut it and we'll just start balancing teams from that point forward. So these are the numbers. So we feel good that the transportation numbers that we were confident would work clearly work. We also see here that if at the end of the first trimester, students want to opt out of remote and come back into hybrid, we still have seats available on the bus to accommodate them as well. So we feel good about the ridership potential right now with our buses. The principals have done yeoman's work over the past 2 days, creating and balancing schedules. We feel good about the in-person and remote students. We're also happy to say that, as of right now, every student who signed up for remote will be placed in a Tyngsborough Public School classroom, just remotely. So we're not even going to use the state option right now. All kids will be part of the Tyngsborough Public Schools and a Tyngsborough Public School teacher. What we're focusing on now is working with teachers and just working on what the instructional practices will be to keep remote students connected to in-class students. And Mark has a whole plan on that. That'll be the September 8th update that we do for you after the PD. Right now, we're still doing nuts and bolts and figuring things out. But we feel good about these numbers and where we are.
Now, this remote in the elementary school, the 137 students remote, are they well dispersed across the grades, or are they more heavily weighted to specific grades? And do we have the right assignments?
A little heavier K to 3.
Okay.
Which is actually what we, many of our colleagues across districts sort of predicted this. Yeah, it's an age thing. It's, people are more concerned with the younger children, maybe not, okay coming back. As the kids get older and more independent, they tend to get more vocal in their house. My freshman is telling me he's going to school, right? He's going to argue more than a 7-year-old might. So I don't think we're surprised by it. And we had a great PD session today, 3 hours today. We're doing another 3 hours tomorrow with 25 content leaders and administrators to talk about just that. How do we get connectivity between children at home and children at school to make sure that they feel like they're in one classroom regardless of where they're learning? It is a little heavier K to 3, but I think I hate to say it is what it is. We're gonna take that and run with it.
Okay. Okay.
So now that we know we're going hybrid and students will be back in the classrooms, one of the questions I'm starting to hear a lot is when do we find out who my kid's teacher is?
Yeah,
That's
so
something that will be coming
They're
out.
knee deep in it right now.
So I believe I read an email from Mrs. Kavanaugh today that says she's notifying the teachers tonight of class lists. So that'll probably take a day or two to shake out. But I would think the hope would be, certainly by early next week, by Monday of next week, I'm hoping that we can know.
And when on that same thread, when do we find out what days they're in and what days they're remote?
So they should know based on
On the teacher? Or no?
on their last name.
Oh, okay.
The Lakeview's Lakeview's A to L, Winslow's M to Z, unless you were a sibling with the junior-senior option. Seniors are Lakeview, Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Juniors are Winslow, Thursday, Friday. Everyone's home on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. And everybody else is Monday, Tuesday, Lakeview, is that right?
Yep, A to L, yep.
And then Thursday, Friday.
M to Z, Thursday, Friday, Winslow,
Okay,
unless you were the sibling that opted in
okay,
with a junior-senior, because you
Okay.
want to be on the same day as your older brother or sister.
okay. And how do you, I'm a little confused about the junior-senior thing. How did they, because the other classes have a remote day and an in-person day, but if you're doing junior-seniors together, are they doing it that way? Like,
Yeah, so if I'm a senior,
yeah,
I will be in person on Monday, Tuesday, and then I'll be remote Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
okay,
If I'm a junior, I'll be remote Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in person Thursday, Friday.
And some of them are split in the same classes, obviously. No? Or-
Juniors and seniors?
Yeah.
They're in on different days. They'll never be in the building together. All the seniors are
No,
together,
no,
all the
but-
juniors together.
But the remote and the in-person will be sandwiched together, right? No?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that, like, you'll be in a class with half juniors and half seniors. And
Potentially, yes.
yeah. Do you know what I'm
Potentially.
saying?
Yes,
Like,
yes,
so
if it's a
have-
cross, so yes, if it's a cross-graded math class, for example,
yeah.
that has some
Yes.
juniors and some seniors, yes, there could be some kids coming in remotely, other kids are in person, yes.
Right, right.
That is true.
Now, do all the teachers work 3 days remotely at school?
They're working every day
Every
at
day.
school, they come in every
Oh,
single day.
every single day? Okay, that's what, yeah.
Yep.
2 days in person, well,
Teachers are here 5 days a week in person.
yeah.
And they
They'll
continue,
have Lakeview kids on Monday, Tuesday, they'll have Winslow kids on Thursday, Friday, and they'll be in their classroom on remote learning day teaching from their classroom.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So, again, feeling good about the numbers. And we'll get class lists out as soon as we can. I'm probably going to text from Mrs. Kavanaugh saying I need more time, but we'll do our best to get them out on Monday to everyone. So that's good. So that's exciting that has worked out for us. Next slide, Mark. So, as we talk about hybrid, certainly a huge component of it is the technology aspect of it. Mr. Piper's here tonight. You can happy to answer any questions. But I think one of the other things that we felt really good about was when we did a survey a few months back to talk about connectivity in each household in the community, we had close to 1,000 responses, and 98.7% of those families said, we have internet access and we're all set. We can support it at home with our Wi-Fi, which is great. The next question, or the next big issue, is getting Chromebooks in the hands of our kids so that when they are learning remotely, they have the device that we want them to have, that we as a district can support, and that there's a level of familiarity with. What we don't want is a student working on a MacBook Monday, Tuesday, then going home, working on a Chromebook or a Dell or anything else, or a phone, because we want it to look the same no matter where they are, so that there's comfort and confidence in that, because we don't want to create barriers for learning. So we're in the process now. We did update the committee at the last meeting that we had an issue with Chromebooks, that they may be pushed back a little. Very happy to say, Derek's got his fingers crossed over there, but we actually, we changed vendors, we canceled that order and went with a different vendor. So we are 99% confident that we will have all the Chromebooks in next week, Mr. Piper? Next week. So we will be 1-to-1 as a district, grades K to 8. High school will still be bring your own device. But getting the kids K to 8 1-to-1 is going to be huge. So that'll take some time for Mr. Piper and his team to update the computers, prepare the computers, inventory them, and then we'll have to work on a pickup process for all kids in the district, K to 8, on what it's going to look like for their drive-through pickup Chromebook service. So details are coming. We're figuring it out as we go, but it's exciting that we were able to get them and secure those. So I appreciate Derek's hard work on that. As you know, where's all the money coming from this? This is not coming from our FY21 budget. You know that we received CVRF grant money from the federal government, $350,000. You know that we received ESSER grants to about $42,000. You know that CARES money is available in the town of Tyngsborough. So none of this is coming from a direct line item in our FY21 budget. So technology set up for staff. So I think this is a big question. What is it going to look like? Mark, next slide. Just so we can start to envision what the classroom is going to look like. In addition to the Chromebooks for students, this is the setup that every teacher in the Tyngsborough Public Schools will have. They will have a cart that is going to be portable, that they can set up in the middle of the classroom, that they can take to their desk, they can take to a whiteboard, have an extension cord. And on the cart, they'll have a place for their laptop. They'll have a 24-inch monitor to see every student at home in the Brady Bunch picture. They'll have a webcam, which has a great picture on it attached to the top of the monitor, and they'll have speakers so they can hear clearly the students at home, and the students can hear them clearly as well. So that's going to be a portable teaching device for the teachers to engage with the students at home. And as we talk about what it looks like for the students at home, this is where we're going to get creative with our teaching and learning. Do you want to jump in and talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, a lot of the professional development time we spent today was talking about connectivity. It really actually wasn't about academics yet. It was all about how do we get students who are at home or wherever they are learning remotely to feel like they are part of the classroom. And the language that's out there now in the research is called the concurrent classroom. And it's this concept that we're trying to use in-house and hope that other stakeholders in the district will embrace that concept of the students are in your classroom regardless of where they physically are. So this is at the forefront of the classroom. I'm participating on the other end, and most of our conversations today and tomorrow are going to be around instructional strategies related to making sure you are integrated into the classroom regardless of where you are. How we're going to do group work, how we're going to do conferencing with students, how you're going to pair kids up, how you're going to make sure you're calling on students and engaging them, how are we going to make sure that they're not glued to that machine for 6 hours just because they're on the other end of it, and what instructional strategies can we use to have them step away from that machine, do authentic work, and then come back to the machine just for a check-in. No differently than if the teacher said, hey, do some independent work for a while I circulate around the room. They're not glued with their eyes to the teacher during that time. So a lot of our instructional strategies are going to be around engaging children in both places so they all feel like they're part of the class regardless of where they're physically sitting. We believe that the content is going to be the least necessary PD. We have high-end content professionals in this district. We have people that know their math program and know their social studies programming and know their science. They're excited to be back with children to talk about their subject matter. We need to support each other in how we do this well with kids in 2 or 3 different locations. So that's been the bulk of our work recently.
And the only other thing I'll add to that before I open up to questions about technology is we are committed to ensuring we have a mechanism to support our parents. Not all of our parents know what Google Classroom is, how to access it, or how to use it. We are looking at bringing in a technology integration specialist who will serve as a liaison to the community as well. But we recognize that, giving a kid a Chromebook and sending them off isn't necessarily the best strategy in the world. We have to teach our parents how to support their kids. It's going to be incumbent on our teachers to make sure that our kids are ready to go, but it's going to be incumbent upon us as a district to make sure our parents are ready to support them as well.
So we're talking about family and parent help desks. We're talking about email and servers that they can send back to. We're talking about videos. We're talking about potential drop-in cyber cafes in a socially distant way within one of the schools where you can have office hours, almost like making a tea time, where you can click on a sign-up genius and come in and have a tutorial on a specific topic related to the kids learning at home. All of which we couldn't do when we first kicked all this off because we were reacting, and honestly, we locked the buildings down. So we're in a different place now when it comes to being prepared and to having access.
So that being said, we just talked a lot about technology.
I just have some questions about that. So all students are going to be at home in some degree with some sort of adult supervision, or maybe not at home, but somewhere with some sort of adult supervision when they're not in the school. Is there some level of communication that's going to happen to the adult supervision or the parents, and then they can share it with the adult supervision, as to what to expect during the day? I'm specifically thinking about the younger students who may require more supervision or more direction.
On the next slide, please. So we had a meeting this week, our admin retreat this week, and the challenge to the building administrators was you need to over-communicate effective starting now. Right now, parents need to know. So to your question, I think what I'm hearing you say, and I've heard it from other parents as well, is, I want to know, is there a window where I can do my work and log on and have a meeting? What's it look like for a typical first grade or second grade thing? And I think it's going to change day to day, but there are certain things we know. We know that at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, the kids are going to go outside for their mass breaks, or 9 to 9:30, whatever the time is. Parents are going to have that time to coordinate something. We know that when the kids are going to have their lunch, we know the kids are going to have their specials. So I think I think parents want the routines. What are the routines going to look like at home? And we don't have those answers yet. Because honestly, it's a matter of getting the teachers in the school to talk about what it looks like. But I envision, and I hope, I'm confident, that after we have 10 days of PD, we'll be able to send something home to parents and say, here's a typical first grade schedule. Here's a typical second grade schedule. There may be some movement here and there, maybe, but you can bank on this is what the structure of it's going to look like. High school, middle school, it's pretty easy. I mean, that's a bell schedule that goes throughout the day. We know what that looks like. It's the elementary school where we're gonna have to kind of really define that for parents so that they can figure it out in terms of having, I have 3 kids in first, second, 4th grade home. I gotta balance this. So we're working on that, and we will communicate that.
And what the work is, I'm sorry, Dr. Flanagan, what the work is another, because I feel like that's also part of your question, is like, how do I know what I'm supporting and when I can support it? So we had a great conversation today with teams sending communications as well, which is not always the practice at all grade levels. So we talked with Mr. Conlon today and said maybe a shift in our practice might have to be that the science department sends out a weekly update to parents about high school science programming. This week in these classes, this is what's happening. While those kids are independent, we did hear from some high school parents, particularly last year during the crisis part of the pandemic, that felt they were out of the loop and they didn't know what was going on all the time. That trickles all the way down to the elementary school. So if you got a communication weekly from the 3rd grade team or the 4th grade team, kind of front loading, this week in math we're doing X, this week in science we're doing this. I can't lock you into exactly what I'm doing because my scope and sequence could be fluid based on what kids learned the day before, but generally speaking, I can tell you as a parent, this is what you need to be prepared to support your child with. So we had a great conversation about those kind of communications coming from the grade level teachers, and hopefully from teams of teachers throughout the district.
And I think a lot of those conversations are so building specific that you're going to see communications coming from this point forward from the building principals regarding what's going on. Because, you know, we've done the 10,000-foot view. Parents want to know, what's it going to look like in a 2nd grade classroom? Like, show me a video of that. Where does my son or daughter sit in the bus? Show me a video of that. That's what our principals are going to do, so they can understand, talk about how each thing is unique to their school, their environment, their community. So you'll start to see a lot of communication coming from the building principals. And again, Dr. Branco and I can speak 10,000 feet, but I want to know what a 6th grade classroom looks like. I want to know how it's going to impact seniors as a dad. So those are the conversations we're having. So our building principals will take the lead on that and get the information out to parents.
Could this board be put on most of those correspondence?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Everything.
Yep.
Please.
Absolutely.
And then on a level down, you know, with the teachers, I think it has to be consistent from teacher to teacher. So if teachers are communicating, teachers need to be communicating with the parents also, even at the high school level, I feel. Last year what happened was some teachers would communicate, some teachers wouldn't. And I think it has to be across the board.
Yeah, so I think they'll probably be right in Google Classroom.
Right now, the primary communication tool for 6th to 12th grade particularly is going to be Google Classroom.
Okay.
Which is why we need to train parents on how to use Google Classroom, so you can go at any point you want and see what the expectation for the week is right there.
Will you get your own password as a parent? How will that work?
I don't believe so, particularly at the older grade levels. We want those kids to advocate, and then we want parents to sit with their child and say, hey, just like I'm going to do with my freshman, open up your laptop, show me a Google Classroom, and I'll sit with you and go through it. We'd like them to take that ownership piece.
I have a question. Just to feel Mr. Plankler is, wonderful to sit over there, but I got a couple of questions for you. So,
Come up to the microphone.
my only question is the bandwidth coming into the building. We may have a robust wireless network here, but what is the bandwidth coming into each facility? Is it, speed of FiOS? Is there?
Yep. So we have Verizon fiber coming into both buildings. We have 980, close to 1 gig coming in here. And we just upgraded the elementary school to the same speed, and there's fiber coming in there as well. This coming week and the next, and especially when teachers get back, we have plans to do a whole kind of crash test on it to get as many video streams as we can get going and monitor the bandwidth. And
So I just want to, call out the technical team here. This is not an easy thing to do to prepare for an onslaught of a lot of users. I've been in the industry 20 plus years, so not the school industry, but the technology industry, so I know you and your team work really hard. Our expectations are high, but we have full confidence.
yeah, no, network is it's going to be a
Good experience technically for the children.
Yeah, it is. And the network's going to be a key thing to watch.
Yep.
And just on a side note, a little plug, we have a new network admin who has already done a few tweaks that have made vast improvements in the Google Meet experience. So
fantastic.
We're looking forward to the challenge, but it is going to be a challenge.
All right. My main question on that.
No, that's great. No, and believe me, we've Derek's not sleeping at night thinking about it. There are a lot of details, and we're doing our best to dot every I and cross every T. So I just want to make sure that parents see this slide here. If you have specific questions,
Thank you, Derek.
our TPS reopening is still open. Please email us with any questions you have. Generally, we respond to those, and we'll add those to our FAQ, just so it's public information out there. Happy to answer any other questions from the committee about anything you want in terms of update and reopening at this point.
If I may, I just want to, again, discuss the time frame of this. We're not locked into this for the entire school year. If things change, if CDC regulations change as far as number of students allowed on a bus, we will reevaluate this, but we are locked into it for the first trimester. And during that time frame, we will reevaluate going into the rest of the school year. But I think that's important for our families at home to know as well.
Absolutely. I envision we'll be doing a reopening update every meeting. We won't call it reopening at some point, but
Correct.
until we do, it's a reopening update.
But we have committed ourselves to do this for the first trimester, regardless of, unless the governor closes our schools. But for planning purposes, bus schedules, so on and so forth, we are first trimester, but we will continue to evaluate.
Correct. And to that point, we are at a much better place technology-wise. So, if we have a snow day or a power outage day or a heat day here in the community, we've seen all these before, we'll just go right on and call it a remote day that day. And we'll be ready to adapt as we go.
In my understanding, I think part of the hybrid plan was to have a group of people that are looking at the data, the number of COVID cases, the number of all those things, to be on top of any changes that need to be made. And is that right, Ryan?
Yep.
Are you part of that group?
Yes. Yeah, so that's coming up.
Yeah. And who is part of that group, or?
I don't know what everybody's doing.
So it's Ryan, it's Sarah Lewenzik representing the administration, Carrie Moon from the Board of Health, as well as 2 members of the TTA, most likely a nurse from TES and a nurse, probably Michelle Riley from TMS.
Dr. Flanagan, could you speak a little bit to what the parents can expect as far as the expectation around school supplies? I know there was a list that came up for the Tyngsborough Elementary School, but I'm not sure if there was anything available yet for middle or high school.
So I didn't see the list. I do know that the school, the elementary and the middle school are both purchasing the supplies for the kids. We want to make sure that all kids have their own set of supplies, whatever was being required by each grade level team. So the school district bought school supplies for the students this year. Am I missing something?
That's good to me.
Okay.
No, you're right.
Yeah, no, so each principal reached out to each grade level and found out exactly what they want in their little kit or basket or whatever, so that we aren't sharing materials and things like that. So that's why the district bought them this year, so every kid has their own portable school supply.
Yeah, I didn't see the details, but I saw there was a supply list that came out. So I don't know if there's some confusion there.
Okay, let me look into that.
Extra stuff that they're expecting us to buy.
Yeah, let me look into that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Very informative. New business. The memorandum of agreement with the TTA. So the negotiations committee met with the TTA for the last few weeks, and we came to an agreement on 6 items. First one had to do with capacity classroom setup, health and safety, PPE supplies, establishing the COVID-19 status review team, which we were just talking about, and inspecting the air quality in all the buildings. The second thing we talked about was changing dynamics. Agreed on the school calendar, what the evaluations will look like for the staff, the staffing will look like, and operations. So I will seek a motion to, also this is in the drive, so you can see all the details. We'll seek a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement as presented and authorize the chair to sign it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I may, for the purpose of self-disclosure, there's no monetary or benefit enhancements as a result of this agreement. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 700. Modified hybrid learning model academic calendar, 2020-2021.
Mr. Chair, also on the drive tonight is the academic calendar that was part of that MOA. So I'm happy to say that that it was great working with the TTA. They were great to work with, particularly in light of other districts that are really struggling to come to an agreement. Very proud to say that the work of the TTA to work with us and certainly the committee for getting the deal done. But this calendar represents what we've agreed to. As you know, the Commissioner of Education worked with the MTA, the AFT, and the Boston Teachers Union to agree to 10 days of professional development at the beginning of the school year to ensure that we are able to prepare our teachers and students for what they're going to expect this year. So this calendar reflects the slight modification to the old calendar that you approved back in March. So basically, highlights of this calendar are we have 10 days of PD prior to the start of the school year. Students will start on September 14th. That will be the first day of school for the Lakeview Cohort. The Lakeview Cohort will attend schools on Monday and Tuesday. The Winslow Cohort will attend school on Thursday and Friday in person. Remote learning will be every day, Monday through Friday. Wednesday, everyone will be remote. This calendar represents everything we've agreed to. Our election days will still be full-day professional development days in the district. We added one more day on the end of the school year for the teachers to effectively close out their school year. In addition, we have four early release days on this calendar, which are contractual release days that we have every year. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the Wednesday before the winter break, the Friday before Memorial Day, and the last day of school. It's very similar to last year, minus 10 days of instruction for the teachers to have additional PD time. So if the committee approves this tonight, I will push this out to the community tomorrow. It'll be available on our website tomorrow.
I will seek a motion to approve the modified hybrid learning model academic calendar for 2020-2021.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 700. 9C, policy 5.32. Dr. Branco?
So in your drive is a draft policy for for discussion and a first read tonight on face coverings. This is coming from MASC, which is a recommended draft policy. The policy would only be in existence as long as you as the committee want it to be in existence during the pandemic and during the requirements that the state has around masks. It has been recommended that we have a policy in place so that we have some kind of backing when we're discussing this with families, discussing with staff members, and so that we, as a school district, are unified in our language choice. So if you take a look at this policy, the language basically is very similar, if not mirrors, everything that's right in our school plan already. Talks about mask breaks while eating, physical activities, being outside, and it spells out when it's appropriate for people to not be wearing the mask. And it's just, again, the recommendation right now from MASC is that we're adopting some level of policy that then you can vote off the island, so to speak, when things kind of settle down and we have no more need for it. So happy to take questions, have you discuss it. Do a first read for this. The hope is to have a second read and have it implemented at our September 8th meeting so it's in place before we start the school year on the 14th.
Any other questions for now? Let's seek a motion to approve the first read of the school committee policy 5.32 specific to face coverings.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 700. 9D, student parking fees.
Mr. Chair, as you know, each year we charge a $200 fee for our seniors to buy a parking pass to drive to school each and every day. Given the fact that we're in a hybrid learning situation this year, and the most they will come in person right now is 67 days for the entire year, And given the fact that we want to encourage the kids to bring their cars and avoid ridership and practice social distancing away from school buses, in a conversation with Mr. Messina and I, and what's happening in a lot of communities, districts are making the decision and making the recommendation to school committees to waive the parking fee for this year. We, as you know, last year, this committee took a vote, I think in April, to refund a portion of parking fees to students because we were remote at that point. There's just a lot of uncertainty with where we are going to be right now and what the year looks like. That to collect fees and then reimburse fees and just the uncertainty of it right now. We have some money available in the account right now. We believe that based on Mr. Messina's recommendation, it's the right financial thing to do for the district. So I'm looking for the committees to support us waiving parking fees for seniors and juniors who qualify, certainly, for this year, to encourage them to bring their cars and not ride on buses.
Seek a motion to waive the student parking fees for the 2020-21 school year.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Discussion?
Dr. Flanagan, can you tell us what those monies are used for?
Sure.
The course of the year?
I can, because Mr. Messina wrote it right here for me. Program, maintenance fees, lot maintenance fees, paving, striping, and lot attendant.
That is it?
What was the third thing?
Lot attendant,
No, the second thing.
paving, striping.
Paving, striping, okay.
Mr. Mullen?
I'm wondering if we've taken into consideration of the number of students who will now be wanting to drive and whether there will be too many cars in the parking lot.
So we did talk
Any
about
given
that,
time.
given the fact that only half of them will be here, juniors and or seniors, we'll be fine.
Well, I mean, one of them obviously going to be seniors where more of them have their license. You still think we'll be able to, no problem?
We should be fine. Our busiest time of the year is the spring, when all the seniors are driving, half the juniors come.
Sure.
So, if we can handle that, we should be fine.
Okay,
And we do have a lot of overflow with the middle school staff park out back, so.
sure. All right, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 9E.
Mr. Chair, also in your drive tonight are the FY20 executive session minutes that we received back from our council. They are redacted and they are approved and ready for release.
I will seek a motion to approve the release of the FY20 executive session minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Finance.
None tonight. Mr. Messina is dropping off his second daughter today. Yesterday dropped off Alex at UConn. Today Sam at Syracuse. So it's going to be a sad man driving home from Syracuse. Two kids at once. So we'll hold off till September 8th. That's all right.
Sounds good. Let's go for the discussion.
I would like to go back to the retirement that we have announced today. Mrs. Murphy, having worked in the district for over 18 years, seeing the paraprofessional work firsthand, I know that much of their work goes unsung. Not intentionally, of course, but I think they're just behind-the-scene heroes that we have in our district, working with children who need the help the most. Firsthand, I've seen the work that Mrs. Murphy has done over the years, and I've seen her dedication, their hard work, the love that she has had for the children that she has worked with, and she has made innumerable assistance and advancement with these children that she has worked with. And I just want to thank her very much for all of her work and all of the work that the paraprofessionals in our district do. Thank you. That's it.
I'm good tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm good, thank you.
I'm all set, thank you.
Just thank you to Dr. Flanagan and his staff, Mr. Piper, for all the work you guys are doing on a day-to-day basis. It's not been an easy task at all. And I'm just glad I'm not chair this year.
Holy.
I'm good, thank you.
I would just like to, to say to parents, information's coming, stay tuned. We're going to do the best we can and get information out there as soon as we have it. There are a lot of moving parts right now. We are 100% confident we're going to put together a solid academic plan for all our kids. Our teachers are going to love the kids each and every day, and we're going to get the information to you. So just bear with us, and when we get it, we'll get it out to you. So thank you for your support through these very difficult and uncertain times. We appreciate it.
It's sad to say summer's winding down, so enjoy the last few weeks. Really have. That's it. There is a need for executive session tonight to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. We will return from executive session only to adjourn the regular session meeting. This action requires a roll call vote.
In favor.
In favor. In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.